Yes, it does count, and everyone who's rung in too has made a massive contribution to the platform. Interesting, Miles, I can remember he came off air after his first shift here on the platform, and he said, I've never seen so many texts anywhere, and he's worked in a lot of talkback stations. And I try to get to most of them, unless they're too long or they're just trolling. But really the idea of this was that we would have, that your opinion did matter, and we could have conversations that others wouldn't have. And that has been incredibly satisfying in year 2 of operations for the platform this year. A big part of the platform and a big part of this year with Project Napoleon and our coverage of the Rugby World Cup has been It's Only Sport, our afternoon show between 1 and 4 with Martin Devlin, produced, kept under control by Lachlan Moore. And Marty's on holiday now, but I did want to sort of wrap up, look back on the year, what's happening over summer with Martin. So he joins us on the phone now. Marty, you got back from your sons, and geez, I've got such a network of people. Yesterday we get someone, I saw Martin at Wairau. His son was, what was your son doing at Wairau? He's
graduating out of the territorial force, so the initial 7-week induction intake.
Wow.
Which was excellent. Yeah, brilliant. It's fabulous to see. It really was. It's a source of enormous, obviously, pride, achievement, all that kind of stuff for him. And one thing, you'd notice, there would have been 130 or 40 graduates and all, families and parents and things there. I tell you what, there's not one negative vibe about the whole thing. People talk about this, and they talk about, don't they, putting, people or kids or whatever, truants or whatever in the army, and as a negative thing. I looked at it yesterday and saw what an amazing experience for all these young people. Sean, after 7 weeks, mate, they're an hour on the parade ground, march in unison, holding weapons, all this kind of stuff. All, looking spick and span. It's just, so the discipline and the self-appearance, the pride, the achievement, because, they've done all of these things which they would never probably have thought they're able to do. And to get all of that done in 7 weeks, and he goes back there in January for another couple of weeks, and then it's a 1 weekend a month, I think, from then on. But, and who he's met, who he's had to get along with, who he's had to cooperate with, who he's had to learn from, all of these things. It's just such an amazing experience. Honestly, I'm sitting there looking at it going, I wouldn't mind putting myself through it.
Oh, Martin, please, the New Zealand Defence Force is not ready for Martin Devlin and never will be. That's
yeah. But that's why we're in Wairau. Me and his mum and his girlfriend went down and I picked him up, and he was doing it with about 3 or 4 of his mates, so it's a fantastic experience. But look, in terms of the, year of sport,
I just want to talk to, on the way back through Tokoroa, one of my favourite small towns in New Zealand. My auntie used to drive a taxi there and run the bag shop. But you had a lovely Kiwi experience. Tell us what happened in Tokoroa.
Oh, look, this is and this is just absolutely typical New Zealand, isn't it? Where we had stopped in to get some food, came out and looked at the back rear wheel and thought, oh, geez, friggin' thing's flat. And it wasn't totally flat, but it was, pretty much flat. And I thought, okay, I'll go to the gas station, air it up, see. And as soon as I aired it up, it was just air coming out the valve. And there's a Bridgestone across the road, mate. And I went across the road, drove the car across the road and said, hello, is any possibility we can get, and do this today? Mate, they were amazing. They were just excellent. 3 dudes in there and a lovely lady in the office. And took it off, fixed it up, pumped the tyres up, and said to me, that's no charge at all. Just give us a shout-out next time you're on TV. And I said, well, that could be quite a while. But, yeah, they were all fans of the game of two halves from years back, all of it. And as a result, and wished us on our way. The whole
so that's Bridgestone Tokoroa, and I hope...
Bridgestone Tokoroa.
Did you sign them up to the platform? Did you show them the app? No, of course.
I think they were all listening, mate. Okay. And I tell you what, so were a number and a good, healthy number of both officers, staff, and recruits at Wairau, which was a lovely surprise as well.
Good stuff.
Had a lot of people come up and say things, yeah. But let's go back to the year of sport. Okay, the year of sport has been a fantastic year. It really has been. I mean, where do you start, mate? You've got the Rugby World Cup and the All Blacks getting so close to that. You've got the Women's Football World Cup here, probably one of the biggest sporting events that's ever been hosted here in New Zealand. You had the One Day Cricket World Cup. You've had individuals like Ryan Fox. You had the Warriors capture a nation with their run.
Yeah, that
you
was
get onto
big, wasn't
motorsport.
it?
You know, Courtney Duncan won a world title. Shane Van Gisbergen won a NASCAR race, which was extraordinary at the time. Liam Lawson raced Formula One. I mean, look at, you know, and then our cyclists, you know, Aaron Tate, all our world champions winning medals overseas. Lisa Carrington winning again, and then, as I say, the golfers, Daniel Hillier winning on the European Tour, Ryan Fox with his brilliant win in Wentworth. So there's just so many highlights. Obviously, you know, personally for us, the Operation Napoleon and, you know, being sent on assignment to France, just an amazing 3.5-week experience. And again, I just, you know, every time I talk about it, I've got to say thank you to everyone who contributed. And I've met a fair few of them, Sean. Just lovely, generous people with great attitudes to life. And it was, you know, their generosity that put us there. And then to go and watch that quarter-final weekend where you had Ireland versus the All Blacks and France versus South Africa. Well, those are the two best live rugby games I've ever been at. And that's the best All Black game I've ever been at.
And you know what? Kind of unfulfilled. Wouldn't have been the great story for Fozzie, who I know you've got time for and you guys know each other well. And we were, you know, we get to the final and it doesn't happen. The expectation of that story was so huge. But it was kind of summed up sport, doesn't it? It's about the trying. It's about the striving, and you don't always get there, but the fact that you give it a crack is really what sport's about.
I think really well said. Look, as far as I was concerned, and you can only speak about it, you know, from your, you know, where you sit personally in terms of being an All Black fan, and that's, you know, people, that's the best thing about this. You know, when you're a fan, you get to go and you get to work there and you get up so close. It's just, honestly, it's as good as it gets. It really is. But as far as the All Blacks went, I mean, when you take a big breath and you look back at it, you know, there's a lot of obviously yelling and screaming about the referee and the TMO and the decisions and all of that kind of stuff. You know, over the last 5 years, since 2019 when we lost to England in that semi-final, we've lost 14 test matches. We've drawn 2. Every year I look at it and think, if you lose to more than 2 different opponents in a year, you're not the world's best team, because there's only about 5 or 6 teams, Sean, that can actually beat the All Blacks. Well, over that last 5 years, we've lost 2 times in a year, 3 different opponents, 4 times in a year, 3. You know, we've set all these unwanted records. This same group of players went to the World Cup, and you know, when you look at the results and the form and everything else, we were genuine underdogs, probably for the first time ever. So to beat Ireland like that, to play like that, to display that kind of courage and commitment, it was incredible. And then to play South Africa and down to 14 men. And look, I know, you know, I'm not making excuses for Sam Cane. He's not making excuses for himself. But the All Blacks play far too many test matches where we play with 14 men for long periods of the game, 40 minutes to 50 minutes. But just the grit and the determination, and it was so goddamn close. That's what I wanted from the All Blacks after the last few years of so many disappointments and average performances and players who just you think should be better than they are. That to me was All Black rugby. It really was. And so that was, at the end of it, I didn't walk away bitter and twisted like I have at many other World Cups. And then, you know, you look at I'll go the Warriors next, because the Women's Football World Cup was a hell of an event. But, you know, I think, you know, that one win that we had against Norway, God, you take that away, and the year for the football ferns has just been, it's not even been disappointing. No. It's just been so poor, it's been laughable. But let's talk about the Warriors, mate. And people also must remember that this up the Waz thing didn't start first minute of game one. It really did gain momentum, and I think that's what was so special about it. That's why people really loved it, and that's why people really hooked onto it, because it wasn't like rammed down our throat with an advertising campaign.
It was genuine, wasn't it? It was grassroots, absolutely.
Yes, it was. And all of a sudden it just started. I don't know who started. It doesn't matter who started up the Waz, but, you know, you'd see the fans at the games and they'd have these signs, and then there's like the spider Waz. I mean, this is the great thing about the Warriors fans. They've just gone off on a million different little tangents, and they create their own media, videos, you know, Instagrams, Snapchats, everything. And so they just have done this regardless. It's not like New Zealand rugby, who've got new, you know, NZR Plus, and it's creating new energies and, you know, marketing opportunities. And just, you know, just stop it, mate. You know, this is what I love about the Warriors. It's just is what it is, and it actually captures, I think, genuinely across all kinds of demographics, Sean, all kinds of sociographs. You know, up and down the country in terms of population spread. You know, you didn't have to even like rugby league to be a Warriors fan. That was the great thing about it. You know, like
it was a sensation. Like I'd agree. How do they look next year? What are we looking like next year? Because I'd hate them to be overdogs, as it were. I think, you know, I can remember starting, and I was being very cynical, so were you a bit, and then they won. Oh, hang on, this might be, what was our line? This might be our year.
Yeah, look, exactly. I remember asking Sean Johnson that very first press conference of the year. And it wasn't taking the piss, but it was just kind of like, see, the great thing about Warriors fans, it's always been good old black sense of humour, dark sense of humour, because you've had to, because, your team has been rubbish for so long. And the previous year, let's not forget, they won 6 games. I think they lost their last 8 in a row, something like that. And Stacey Jones, poor old Stacey, was just left there at these press conferences, head in his hands, saying they don't try, they give up. They don't want to play for the jersey, all these things. So that was the actual physical state of the team in terms of its results and performance over the last couple of years. Then along came Andrew Webster, and he actually, I think, gave genuine hope to a lot of people before a ball was kicked. He just seemed like not just a good guy, but he came with such a great reputation. And then they start winning. And winners are grinners in sport, man. And, it's like anything. It's like this new Auckland A-League team. If it starts off and starts winning, people will jump on it. People love going to watch things.
Gee, the Knicks have been having a good run too, though, haven't they? The Phoenix.
Yeah, same. I mean, both men's and women's sides. The Breakers not so much this year, but over the last season they were absolutely brilliant. I mean, let's not forget that they made the finals themselves. And so, the Warriors look next year pretty much the same squad. You've got this Adam Whanua-Blake thing hanging around, which he's got one more year to go, then he leaves. So hopefully he'll turn in another year like he did this year, because he was an absolute beast this year. I mean, he thoroughly deserved his award as one of the 2 best props in the comp. I think teams will be wary of them, Sean, and I think that they will respect them a lot more and prepare for them a lot more, because I think
makes it tough.
I'm not taking anything away from the Warriors, but I kind of get the feeling that, and there's no reason why it wouldn't be true, that they were taken for granted by a lot of teams, I think, who thought that, because traditional Warriors stuff was that they
Easy
faded
bits.
in the second half, in the last 20, in the last 30, in the last 40, and you could get them then. But this year they were just so resilient and strong during that time, and especially in the back end of the second half, they were superb. So,
are they your team of the year, Marty?
Story.
New Zealand team of the year, the Warriors?
See, this is a great question, isn't it? Because when it's actually judged by the Hellberg Awards, you sit there and you think, I'm amazed actually, Sean, and I'm not being facetious, I'm amazed that the Hellberg judges didn't nominate the football firms, because that's the kind of thing I'd expect from those, the kind of people involved at this level of New Zealand sport now. And, that football firm side, you take away the win against Norway, they played 16 times this year, they won 2 games and scored 5 goals. 2 of those goals were against Vietnam. They're just rubbish, The last 32 games the coach has been in charge, they've won 5. Of 32. They've scored 15 goals in that time. I mean, that's a disappointment. Anyway, forget them, because it was just such a media beat-up around that team, and they always, disappoint. But the tournament itself, I thought, was extraordinary. Let's go back to when Trevor Mallard was castigating people. No, Grant Robertson castigating people about not enough tickets were being sold, right?
Yeah.
And then the reality was over 750,000 people bought tickets and went to those games, which is, you're talking about women's soccer matches in New Zealand between teams not involving New Zealand teams, right?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a...
Okay, so I'm going to say, team of the year.
Well, I'd say it has to be the Warriors. Yeah, I mean,
and I'd agree with you. What about...
Depends what criteria you want to use.
Okay, what about New Zealand sports person of the year?
Well, this is where... I'd like to go towards either the motor racing, to be honest, and, I mentioned Courtney Duncan earlier, or Brian Fox, who had an amazing year, and that victory of his at Wentworth in the BMW was as good as it gets in golf. He had half the world's best players breathing down his neck and scrapping him, and to produce a performance like that's amongst the best ever New Zealand golfing performances anywhere ever. Yeah, and that includes Lydia Code's triumph and everything else, because the quality of the field.
Yeah, let's talk golf. One of the big stories in golf this year was the Live Golf thing. And boy, at the end of the day, money talks in international sport, doesn't it? And it was a tussle, but in the end, all the cards fell.
And in the end, money won. And that's the terrible thing about it. In the end, is that I don't know why the Saudi, whatever it's called, the PIF, or well, it's just basically the prince's pocket money, isn't it, that he was playing with him, and why he decided to pay in the end $600 million US. Which, I mean, translate into New Zealand dollars if you want, but whatever it is, it's so much goddamn money. And pay for John Rahm at this time of the year, when you thought a deal was being done between the two, opposing factions in terms of the tours of men's golf, the PGA and this new upstart called Live Golf. It's just, it's in some ways it's quite depressing, because you just think, good God, that kind of money and none of us can turn that money down. None of us have got that. None of us have got the internal fortitude to go, no, this is blood money, or this is actually wrong, or I need morals. Sean, it's, they come to you and they offer you $600 million US. Sell the platform today, pal. You've already signed the check. That's how it works. We all know that. So, and it's just the truth, and it's a shame because you just feel like, my God, what have they already got in terms of what they bought? They've just got the FIFA World Cup, the Men's World Cup, the biggest sporting tournament in the world. They're now hosting that in 2034. What can't they get? What can't they buy? What can't they disrupt in terms of, I'm looking at the Premier League and the Champions League football in England, and that Champions League will involve Saudi teams very shortly. It's just a matter of when it does.
Talking about other international trends in sport, it seems to me we also had some sanity prevail in terms of blokes competing against women internationally, and a number of sporting bodies finally said, let's stop the silliness of blokes dressed up as women beating hell out of women in competition.
Yeah, look, I don't want to, insult anyone in terms of what they are choosing or, wanting in terms of their own genders. Yeah, that's it. People can have free to do what they want as long as they're not harming anyone else. It's all consenting adults. That's cool. I'm all happy with it. I'm sick of hearing about it, to be perfectly honest, because I find the whole angle boring, and this is just mainstream media clickbait shit, and that's what it is. It's all it is. And so every time these stories come up, you just sit there and you scratch your head again. Look, sense and sensibility has prevailed. I think in International Rugby League and cricket and swimming and cycling and a number of sports where, quite simply, look, it's just, the science is so inexact, and you can get a clever dick professor arguing this argument or arguing that argument until it's known and absolutely known. That's an absolute known. Then I just think that it can't be allowed, and it's just not fair. And it's up to the women themselves. I believe the female athletes, and if the female athletes themselves don't have a problem with it, well, who should have a problem with it? That to me is the last kind of qualifier, and it's not up to me to decide. And a whole lot of people sitting around a committee room somewhere making decisions about this is a bit odd as well, considering that, I just think, ask the women, biological women who are competing, and asking them whether they want
they think it's fair.
And whether in this particular game, that person over there, who, is actually plays like a man, is built like a man, really? Come on. So, in those circumstances, I think it's just sense and sensibility, and it's not insulting to anyone, it's just what it is. And I just think people have just got to get on with it. So, but the story I just find the narrative so boring these days. It's so predictable, isn't it? That anything like this, the other proliferation in mainstream media is about, everything is about, the evil patriarchy and sexist this and sexist that, and, equal pay, and, all of these issues continually come up, but they never argued, Sean, with any kind of real admission of facts or clarity or actual real life situation. It would just take, and it's been a big story all year. You've had the Phoenix woman, the vice captain, amongst other issues with that, financial hardship. She owned a house in Auckland and was paying rent in Wellington. And I thought, I wouldn't mind being in that financial hardship situation. I don't own a house in Auckland, and you must be doing okay if you've got two of those things. But anyway, it's not about, the idea of it, the ideal of it, is as valid as any. But you've also got to accept, there's no, just because you play professional sport, there is no pot of gold sitting around the corner. I train hard, therefore I deserve to get paid. No, you don't. What you're doing is you've got a product, and if that product isn't selling and nobody wants to buy it, well then you've got an economic problem. You're not making the money. It's as simple as that. And if you want to be treated like a professional, accepted like a professional, looked at like a professional, then behave like a professional, and a professional in any, it doesn't matter what genre or job you're in. Mate, if you don't sell coffees out your coffee shop, well, you can have the best coffee shop in the world, but you don't stay in business. Yep. You can't just say, well, I get up in the morning and I pump coffees at 5 o'clock. Well, yes, you do, but no one's coming in. And this is what I think with
Marty, what have
sport.
we got to look? What are sports fans? What's on offer over the holes? What can we be watching?
Cricket.
We need our fixes. Cricket. It is summer. It's cricket, right?
Cricket, man. Cricket, basketball. There's a lot of NBA on. There's the Breakers on. If you're into your round ball football, the Premier League still goes on. The Phoenix and so forth still go on. Up the Northern Hemisphere, if you're really missing your oval ball, you've got all those rugby club competitions. You've got the rugby league out there, plus also the NFL. I love my NFL, mate. And so this is coming into the end of the season. then the playoffs, which is the best time of all for NFL. So, yeah, plenty on. And plenty to glob out.
And, of course, you're going to learn a whole new sport when I send you on the tour with the disc golf people.
Okay, where the hell's he gone, man?
You're going to Clyde. You're going to Clyde for the end of the
disc golf champs.
The disc golf champs.
Brilliant. I'm just looking out for the puppy, mate.
Now, people are texting in. How is Presley?
Oh, Presley's fantastic, mate. I just took him down the road for to get a coffee. He's bloody great. He's marauding. He's in that. I think he's getting into his kind of like his 2-year-old stage, a naughty 2-year-old. So, he's a handful.
Yeah,
but
both of you be a fit handful, mate. Marty, thanks for another great year, mate. It is lovely having you on board. And enjoy your break. We'll see you back on the 15th in the new year. Thanks for your contribution and everything you've done for the platform this year, my friend.
Awesome. Happy Christmas, Ben. See you later.
All right, that's Marty Devlin, part of our crew, part of our team.